Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Science of Kabbalah with your hosts, Rabbi Yitzhak Michelson and William Hall, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome, everyone, to another segment of the Science of Kabbalah here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. This is Rabbi Yitzhak.
This is William Hall, a dear friend. Rob, it is so good to hear your voice again. Every week I look forward to this.
I know, it's good to be back here on Israel News Talk Radio. Very excited about the show today.
Same here. It's an interesting collection for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I was just thinking, and this is something that the crowd probably will not get, but I know you certainly will. Almost every time we get back together each week, I have an instant flashback of you sitting in my living room, sitting there giving us those lectures, and it was such an awesome time. I want to get you back here one time soon.
I know. I mean, it would be great, and I had plans to come there when I was going to speak in Houston, but Hashem had other plans with this Magifah, with this plague that we're going through. So, God willing, we're going to see an end to this soon, that Hashem will end it, and whatever we need to do to bring an end to this will come about. So,
yes, sir.
Everything okay with you there in the other side of the pond?
Yeah, Speaking of pond, it's really wild. I just recently made a purchase I thought I would never ever do. We may be able to take my kids fishing finally once.
All right, there you go.
We'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, I know. I actually had a comedy of errors today and was talking to a friend about writing a book about this. Actually, writing a book about the comedy of errors. We have a phrase we say, "Kacha ze b'Yisrael." This is the way things are in Israel when you deal with bureaucracy. And the only reason I bring that up is that because we're going to be talking about another kind of book today. Actually, a book for adults, but not the kind of book that you would normally think about. This is going to be a coloring book. I don't know if you liked to color when you were a kid, William. I know I did. I still like to. I wish I had more time to do it.
You asked that because I've always been into art, and I think anybody who has been into the arts type of even artistic mindset, even people who like looking at art, for example, this is something I think would interest them quite a bit.
Well, yeah, if you're interested in art and you like listening to our show, The Science of Kabbalah, then you're definitely going to want to listen to the show today. You're definitely going to look at the website of the the guests that we're going to have on regarding their book and the artwork of this most amazing artist that lives here in my town in Tzfat. So stay with us. We're going to have to go to a short break. We'll be right back here on the Science of Kabbalah on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Science of Kabbalah with Rabbi Yitzhak Michelson and William Hall, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of the Science of Kabbalah here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. William, before the break, we were talking about how excited we are about coloring books.
Before you guys get too judgmental now, hey, there's a lot of artists going around in this world. I think I used to be one of them, and I'm pretty sure Rob is not only an artist in favor, but he's also an artist in the culinary arts as well.
Yeah, but you know what? I tried. My sister is really good at painting and doing those kind of things, and Leah is amazing. I have skills in the kitchen, but when it comes to crayons and pencils and things like that, not so much. Although I do have this book, and I can't wait to jump into it. Anyway, we have two guests with us today. One of them is a friend of mine. The other one I hope will be a friend of mine. Unfortunately, we've never met in person, but that's not unusual for me in Tzfat. There's another well-known artist here in Tzfat, and you'll find this very funny that I used to walk by his gallery every day living here in Tzfat. And you know where I met him? at the Renaissance Festival in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh, how cool is that?
My brother-in-law has a booth there, and he was standing next to me, and I said, "Don't you live in Tzfat?" Anyway, that's for another story. Anyway, our guests today are Zev Padway and David Friedman. David Friedman is an artist who I believe was born and raised in Denver, Colorado. Born just 5 days before me on the 1st of February on Rosh Chodesh Adar in 1957. I was born 5 days later. He's been here in Israel, I think, probably over 40 years now. Moved to Tzfat after learning in Yerushalayim for a couple of years, and was I think he went to art school and was very much into art and very much into the posters, like many of us were, of the 60s and 70s artwork related to album covers. And he ended up moving here to Tzfat. After dealing with a bout of cancer in 1987, he started practicing meditation. And meditation based on the books of Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, which I love the fact that he learned through that, because one of the rabbis that I learned with was a friend of Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan for 39 years and considers him one of the few people that really understands the concept of meditation as it relates to Kabbalah.
Do me a favor before, not during the show, but at some point after the show, I would love for you to send me a link on that book, please.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so he developed really artwork, a whole system of artwork and Kabbalistic concepts using graphic shapes and colors based on Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, and has been inspired by other texts as well. And then Zev Padway, who I think is could be considered the inspiration behind this coloring book. Zev is, I would call him a Zev of all trades. I mean, I know him for Zev's burritos, which are great. He makes amazing burritos, albeit not hot enough, not spicy enough, Zev. I'm sorry. And also he has Elements Cafe here in Tzfat, off of Kikar HaMeganim, the main square in Tzfat, an all-natural health food restaurant that many people have visited and hopefully will visit again when it's open. Welcome to the show, Zev and David.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I guess I want to start with both of you. I mean, I have a lot of questions because I love the book. I have a lot of questions about what's going on now, because here we are on the radio. We were talking about Rosh Chodesh, how you were born on Rosh Chodesh. Here we are, Rosh Chodesh again, Rosh Chodesh Kislev and Cheshvan, and related to colors and graphics and things like that. But Zev, maybe you want to start off and tell us how this came about. What made you think about something like this?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having us on your show.
Our pleasure.
And I think I first walked into David's gallery, David and his wife Miriam's gallery, 28 years ago, something like that. And I'm one of thousands and thousands of people who have walked into his gallery. And as soon as you walk in, first of all, his gallery and his home are kind of one and the same. So his door is always open for anyone really to come in. And as soon as you go in, you're just in this world of colors. Is the first thing. It's just like these just magnificent, vibrant colors everywhere. And then you notice that they're all with some type of Jewish theme, Kabbalistic theme like this. And for years, I say like myself, like 10 years is when I made Aliyah to Tzfat, that it just made me think of that would make such a beautiful coloring book. And for years I spoke to him about it, but David's a person who really, until Corona, there could be up to 500 people a day in his gallery. So it's not, the idea of creating a coloring book is not on his mind when he's speaking to hundreds of people and he's doing his art. But I kept insisting. I can be very, once I get an idea and I really push it, I can keep pushing it. And finally, last summer, he agreed. And, it was a whole process of where it is today. And it's just dawning on me a lot from other people's feedback and just looking at the book that it's not just a Kabbalah coloring book. It's not just a book for those who like coloring books for adults, but it's actually a sefer on Kabbalah. There's 50 illustrations, so there's 50 pages of Torah meditations and artistic, Torah meditations that go with it. That David was really excellent at writing. So even if someone's not into coloring, it's a book that you could have on Shabbos or whenever and just learn about Kabbalah. And one other point I want to make is it's actually an incredible opportunity for those who want to learn Hebrew, because we have the text in English and in Hebrew. So if you get both and you have them side by side, it's really a great opportunity to learn Hebrew by having them side by side. And in the meantime, you or your kids, my 7-year-old loves coloring in it. It's phenomenal. And you become amazed at how, because his designs are so intricate and so they have so much flavor to them that even myself, who can barely keep inside the lines, when I take the time to do it, it actually comes out really nice. Yeah. And the last point is I read that there's a whole thing as far as the research done on coloring books for adults, for their mental health and for relaxation and for improving sleep and motor skills and vision. If you just Google benefits of coloring in a book, you'll see loads of research that talks about how amazing it is. So during this time of Corona, it's a great opportunity for people.
I think you could say that a Talmud could be its own form of meditation, because it forces you to kind of concentrate on being in the lines. David, so I'm very interested. Of course, like I said, we're coming into here in Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and just a few weeks ago we were in Parshat Noach, where it talks about the rainbow, and we know that one of the signs, the astral sign for Kislev, is the rainbow as well. So talking about these vibrant colors, and then of course the other sign of Kislev is Chanukah. We're coming into Chanukah, the talking about bringing down light and so forth. And I was looking in your book, and the first thing that I opened it up to was the Infinite Eight. So I'm just interested for you to kind of talk about your whole process and the idea of colors and Kabbalah and the graphics and how this all came together for you, even before we talk about the coloring book.
Okay. Well, you mentioned Parshat Noach and the rainbow in that story. In the Zohar, the most famous text of the Kabbalah, it says that the rainbow is also a symbol of the redemption. Because the exile is like the dark clouds and troubles, and then when the light comes through the clouds, you see a rainbow, which is a sign of the end of the exile, the beginning of the redemption. So the Zohar says, don't wait for the footsteps of the Messiah until you see the rainbow in its brilliant colors. Nice. And I've been working for many years using colors symbolically. And my color system, it comes from Sefer Yetzirah, the order of the Hebrew letters and the book of creation, and it's based on the primary colors, which is also brought in that passage on the Zohar, that the main colors of the rainbow are associated with the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I relate them also with the three primary colors, blue, red, and yellow. That blue for water, red for fire, and yellow for light or air. In Hebrew, they're basically the same word.
Yeah, and blue is obviously blue is a very significant color. When we talk about the idea of tchelet in Hebrew, which has many different roots, and talking about also when you talked about the Zohar, talking about both redemption and talking about trouble as well, in that word tchelet related to the color blue, we see that, and blue is obviously a very significant color here in Tzfat blue.
And tchelet for like tachlit, the purpose, yeah, and the end. When I finally agreed to embrace this project, when Zev finally convinced me, then when I was making the black and white pictures, because I actually redrew 50 of my pictures in black and white, and I did make some changes, hopefully for the better. But then I was like resonating with this idea, as an important idea in the Lurianic Kabbalah that comes from Tzfat, from this town. The idea that the world was created intentionally incomplete, so that we will be partners with God in the process of tikkun olam, of repairing and healing and beautifying the world. So I really like this idea of the origin of these pictures they're full of color, but they're made in the coloring book incomplete for people to be partners in this creative process.
Awesome. We're going to have to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking to David Friedman and Zev Padway. So stay with us. We'll be right back here on the Science of Kabbalah on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things. But at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Welcome back to Science of Kabbalah with Rabbi Yitzchak Michelson and William Hall here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the Science of Kabbalah here on Israel News Talk Radio, interviewing two great guys with one awesome concept. So you mentioned something in the last segment. I don't remember which one mentioned it, but I was very enticed by it. But before I ask you that, I want to say something really cool. So the idea of y'all's adult coloring book for Kabbalah and for this whole thing, to me, makes it seem like it would be that for someone who even didn't really consider coloring, the fact that it would be a fun learning tool itself, just as a learning tool alone, it sounds so enticing, and I can't wait to actually see it. So, but going back to my question. Okay, so you mentioned that the colors of the rainbow were in a connection with the patriarchs. Could you explain a little bit of that?
Okay, traditionally, Abraham is associated with kindness and compassion, what we call the right side of the Sephiriatic tree of life. And so water, I use blue. In Hebrew, it's associated with the letter mem for mayim, water. And the left side of the tree of life is associated with Isaac. It's the side of strength and sternness, gvura in Hebrew. Fire. In Hebrew, fire is esh. Mm-hmm. And the letter shin is like the dominant sound in esh. It's like a hissing sound for fire. And those two sounds, according to Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, in the book Jewish Meditation, on the chapter on Shema, which is those sounds, Shema, they're meditative sounds. Shh is a hissing sound, and is a humming sound.
Sure.
And the middle column of the tree of life is associated with light or air. In Hebrew, both words start with aleph. Or is light, avir is air, and I use yellow for that, the third primary color. Aleph is a silent letter, and by going back and forth between those two opposite sounds, the humming and the hissing, you could enter more and more into silence. So in the coloring book, part of my guidance and stuff is to present these meditations on these sounds and the letters while the person is coloring the shapes of those letters with these colors, and it's experiential learning process.
Very nice. I appreciate you taking time to explain that to me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So notice in the bio, and talking about your bio, and I think you might mention it in the book as well, that you had an illness, and as a result of the illness, this is what kind of prompted you to get involved with meditation, and based on Rav Aryeh Kaplan's book on Jewish meditation. Can you talk a little bit about that, about how much that influenced your art?
Okay.
Yeah.
I had been doing, like you mentioned, I went to art school.
Mm-hmm.
Although I didn't finish, I dropped out from Rhode Island School of Design. And I went back to Denver and I got interested in learning Torah. And I came to Israel and started studying. I spent many years studying in yeshiva. I've studied many different things, years of studying Talmud and Halacha, but my love was always in the direction of Chassidut and Kabbalah. And so I kept making art while I was studying, also on Jewish themes. But in 1986, 1987, I was ill with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I got 8 months of chemotherapy, and Baruch Hashem, thank God, it worked, and I survived. But it changed my life in a lot of ways, and I became more open-minded. I think before that, I was very much in the ultra-Orthodox world. And
the side of Givullah, the left side a little bit, huh? Sternness?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, a little bit of like the sternness, and I was judgmental about things that I didn't know about, things that are not. And when I had heard about Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, and I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm fluent in Hebrew and Aramaic. What benefit could I get from a Torah book in English? And then when I finally, after going through cancer, when I started looking at these books, it blew my mind, and I learned so much from them. I read all of his books, and it changed my life. And I took it upon myself not to be so judgmental, especially about things that I don't know. And now when I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about somebody might hear of a Kabbalah coloring book, and without knowing what it's about, they might judge it negatively.
Right.
But I think they might be pleasantly surprised that if they approach it with an open mind, they might find that there's a lot that you can learn from things that we don't know. And for me, I had been studying Chassidut and Kabbalah for many years. But having that meditative approach, it's things that I had studied took on a new light from a meditative perspective.
I would say that by looking at the book itself and being somebody who's studied Kabbalah for many years as well, I can tell, obviously, I've never been to the gallery, but I would imagine if I saw your work before 1987 and looked at your work after you read Rabbi Kaplan's book, I guarantee you I would see the difference. And I certainly can see by looking, just by glancing at the book as I look through, that certainly I can see the influence, and certainly reading some of the editions, the meditative editions that you have with the pictures, I think really opens up something new for people. So it's not just that, and I hear what you're saying. I hadn't thought about the person who's judgmental about it, but we have such a diverse audience, and I think there's so many people. One of the main reasons why we started this show is because I had so many people reaching out to me because I've been doing Kiruv work for so many years and dealing with non-Jews and B'nai Noach, and people contacting me and saying, can we learn Kabbalah? Are we allowed to learn Kabbalah? And I realized that people would just go on Google, to Rabbi Google, and find things that were not authentic. And so I think it's beautiful that you brought up Rabbi Kaplan's book, and because he was absolutely brilliant. And like I said, one of the rabbis I learned with was friends with him for about 35 to 39 years, and was friends with him up until the time he was niftar. So,
and his sources
Yeah.
his sources opened me up to so many other sources that I was not aware of, and then I explored because it's everything is like sourced in an incredible way in his books.
Yeah. So Zev, let me ask you a question. What's your favorite part of the book? Do you have one particular image or meditation that stands out for you?
Well, first of all, I know that if I was listening to this radio show, I would be saying, can you guys please tell me where we can get this book? So I would like to put that plug in first, which is www.the-Kabbalah with an H on the end, coloringbook.com. The KabbalahColoringBook.com. There's also a Facebook page, the Kabbalah Coloring Book. There's also an Instagram Kabbalah Coloring Book. So if you Google Kabbalah Coloring Book, it should come up.
Spelled Kabbalah.
Right, like we spell it here.
2 B's, 1 L, like a BB gun.
And coloring spelled like we do in America, not in England, with no U. Okay, my favorite part of the book is, no, I don't have a favorite part. Okay. I really don't. I love every page of that book. We spent so much time, and like David said, he redrew every one of those, and he did it on my iPad with an Apple Pencil. Plug for Apple. We do accept free iPhones, but every picture that we did, every text. David and I and others went over every word of that book and every image of that book so much. And the cover, for me, the cover is my favorite part of the book. We really put a lot of love into that cover. And the graphic designer kept coming back with different shades of blue. And I was just like not happy with it. And David's he's very accepting. He's like, it's beautiful. It's great. It's fine. I was like, no, it's not Tzfat blue. So I took a picture of the Ari's cover, and I sent that to the graphic designer. I said, this is the blue. Because to me, that's like the iconic blue, is the blue they used at the Ari covers, right? At his cemetery, on his gravestone, like that. So I really love the cover because it just, I don't know, it resonates. But the whole thing is really each page, every one of those pages is a whole world to explore.
Right.
Zev, I thought you were going to say your favorite part is the preface that you wrote.
I knew that you would bring that up, so I did enjoy writing the preface. I wrote the preface on the Ari's yard site, actually. So that was I felt very honored to be able to give my one page of support to it. I think actually this is I don't think anyone knows this, but the truth is as a wedding present, David gave us an original that you never made a copy of that, right? We're the only ones with this copy of this original. Correct. So I took a photo of it, and I attempted to make one of those images by tracing it to put it in the coloring book, and it was so terrible. I did such a bad job that it did not make the cut. But maybe volume 2.
All right, so we're going to have to go to a quick break. We're going to come back with the final segment, so stay with us. We'll be right back here on the Science of Kabbalah on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Science of Kabbalah with Rabbi Yitzhak Michelson and William Hall here on Israel News Talk Radio.
All right, welcome back to our final segment today on Israel News Talk Radio. Listen, the question I had earlier, it wasn't a question, it was more of a point. So I was looking at the website while you were talking about it, and one of the first things, I'm a very visual person, which is probably why I like art to begin with. I mean, I'm the type of guy that if you hand me a book that's got nothing but text in it, it's going to take a lot to keep me connected. But if there's pictures in there, I mean, you see me at a restaurant. My happiest moment is when I walk into a restaurant and all I see is pictures with a number next to it. I love pictures, right? And so on the website, the first thing that drew my attention was actually the video that you've got there, which is really cool. It's just real quick. I didn't play the audio. I was just watching what was on the screen. It was really cool. It shows some of the pages in it, and it's very, very, I like the way it's set up. It's very, to me, it would be very interesting. In fact, I'm in a process right now as we're speaking on the website, fixing to order 3 of them. So anyway, that was pretty much what I had to say. Ralph, go ahead.
No, so in looking at the book, can you tell me, David, why you chose these particular 50 images? I mean, I'm assuming that you have hundreds and hundreds of pieces. I mean, I've seen pictures of the gallery, and certainly you have many, many pieces. What went into the decision in these particular 50?
Well, not every image of mine would translate into a good picture for a coloring book, because I have like many abstract pictures. I chose mostly things that have Hebrew letters and geometric shapes that are like mandalas, meditative designs that are really fun to color, because you have to like sort of turn it around in a circle and have a nice balance of colors. But I when I first got into the project, first we were talking about just a coloring book and maybe a little bit of explanation or just a few words. But when I started writing, then I saw that it could be an actual book, that it has a beginning and it goes through a process, gradually bringing the reader and the color into the story. And it's also sort of the story of my process as well. So the earlier pictures are some of my earliest pictures. And then it like, as you go through, it gets into deeper and deeper stuff. And I think it's a good way for people to get more familiarity with the shapes of the Hebrew letters. In Kabbalah, the gematria, the number value, is also a big part. So geometry, gematria, plays a big role in Kabbalah in general and the coloring book. Because numbers in space is geometry, and the Hebrew letters are numbers. Right. And I also bring some references to music. I'm a musician. I love music. But music is numbers and time.
Absolutely.
And we make our choices, our soul's choice happens in space and time. So I chose pictures that are in that vein.
I think anybody who's listened to the show before knows the story of why I chose to call it the Science of Kabbalah is because there's so much involved in mathematics and geometry and shape and colors. And I believe Kabbalah is a science in and of itself. So you talked a little bit about your obsession with the letter Aleph. And I am obsessed with, I'll tell you which is my favorite, which is probably different than most people. It's probably not as intricate as other images in the book, but it's on page 42, which is the infinite 8. And it's only an obsession because, like I said, we're in Rosh Chodesh, coming into the month of Kislev, and we're talking about colors and the rainbow, and now we're coming into Chanukah. And so you have this infinite 8, and I'm looking at in your description here where you bring up the Aleph again. So and of course the Mobius strip, if you turn it sideways, which again reaches out to me in the idea of science and the connection of science and Kabbalah. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, about that particular image and your obsession with Aleph, and maybe talk to us a little bit about Chanukah from a Kabbalistic standpoint.
Okay, the letter Aleph is the first letter of many names of God, whole families of names of God, like El and Elohim, and but traditionally the letter Aleph is made up of three smaller letters, two Yuds and a Vav.
Mm-hmm.
And the gematria, the number value of Yud is 10. So 2 Yuds is 20. Vav is 6, 26. And 26 is the gematria, number value of the name of God, the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton. And if you take 2 plus 6, it equals 8, which, like you said, is the symbol for infinity.
Mm-hmm.
So Ein Sof in Hebrew starts with Aleph, Ayin, the infinite, the unknowable. And so Aleph, it's light, it's God, it's infinite, it's one. So there's many pictures in the book that are based on the letter Aleph. And I bring some connections with science, and I also see that a lot of the symbols that are part of Kabbalah are also universal. Numbers and shapes, geometric shapes, are universally played with. And I think today it's important for people to see the universal aspect, not just the ethnocentric, but a world-centric aspect as well.
Mm-hmm. And Chanukah, any connection to Chanukah in that?
Well, of course, because there was enough. The story of Chanukah, it's about light,
right?
And there was in the story there was enough oil to burn for one day, and it burned for 8.
Right.
And a big part of like the numbers that we use to count time and space, well, 7 days of the week. And when you conclude one cycle of 7, it goes back to 1, but it's really the 8th.
Right.
So there's this strong connection between the infinite and the one, and miracles and light. And I think that we look at God as creator, and when we develop our creative potential, and I think everybody has creative potential, and I think it's just that we have to give ourselves a positive message that we can. And I think people using this coloring book could come up with very beautiful images. And I think that's miraculous that people can create beautiful art.
I do as well. And I think it's great that we're talking about universality rather than ethnocentric. And I think that's the beauty of this being a coloring book, is that there's no one particular way of doing it. We only have a few minutes left. So Zev and David, Zev, if you want to give information again about how people order the coloring book and what's the best way. And also, if you want to give any information, David, on your website on how people can contact you, you can do that as well, please.
Go ahead, David.
Okay, my website is www.cosmic-kabbalah. Cosmic with a K, Kosmic, dash in the middle of the line, Kabbalah, KABBALAH.com.
And there's 2 dots back to back? I've never seen it before.
No, just one dot.
No.
Okay.
One dot.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And there's a button on the homepage of the website to get to the coloring book, but the coloring book is www.thekabbalah KabbalaColoringBook.com.
And again, Kabbalah with 2 B's, 1 L, and an H at the end. The KabbalahColoringBook.com.
It's available in Hebrew and in English. The price for the book is 80 shekels, which now it's about $23. And then the shipping, the website automatically figures it according to the address and zip code that you put in. If you're ordering from outside of Israel, then the most economical is to order by 3s because the shipping is less that way.
Very good. And just to confirm, I just ordered 3 of the books, and it came through my PayPal for 3 of them plus shipping came to $91.32, which is a really fair price especially for shipping from that far as well. So.
Yeah, I can tell you it's a very fair price, and I can tell you that this would make we're talking about Kislev, we're talking about Hanukkah. I can tell you that this would make a great Hanukkah gift if you're out there trying to figure out something unique. I know I'm always looking for unique gifts, so I may be shopping a little bit as well for some of my friends and family this year. So again, you're really going to want to look at this between the meditations, the images, the ability to color, and this is not coloring for children. This is coloring for adults. So again, it's the KabbalahColoringBook.com. I want to thank you, Zev Padway and David Friedman, for being with us. I wish you much hatzlacha, much success with this, and in all your future endeavors.
You guys order in blocks of 3 because the shipping is easier that way.
Yeah, so stay with us every week here on the Science of Kabbalah on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Shalom, shalom.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.